So it's all about respect today. Did you figure that out? R-E-S-P-C-T. All right. You know why I didn't sing that one. Okay. We leave that for Norma. All right. So yes, the year is all about spiritual activism and peace building, and I'm just so immersed in this work. And how many of you have heard this term? Is that familiar to anybody in here? Peace literacy. It's pretty new. And it doesn't surprise me that our Circle Up folks are the only ones that know about it. This idea of peace literacy. I want to read you something, an article I came across just a month ago in April by an author named David Cook. He says, each year in the United States, millions of students graduate from high school and college. Their diplomas certifying years spent studying the principles of science, mathematics, literature, and writing. These are the subjects we value as a society, and therefore we insist that our young people develop knowledge in these areas. Imagine if we graduated seniors who couldn't read or do simple math or write basic paragraphs. That would be outrageous, wouldn't it? Right? Yes? Yet, these very same students will graduate without ever once studying conflict resolution. During their entire academic career, they will never be required to take a course on making peace, on building community, or forgiving an enemy. The principles of violence and nonviolence will not be analyzed, the philosophy of Dr. King will not be discussed, and the practice of nonviolent resistance, which Gandhi called the most powerful force in the universe, will remain ignored. We are neglecting to teach our students the most fundamental and urgent lesson: how to make peace in the world around them. And by forgetting to do so, we are promoting violence. As my friend and fellow peace educator Coleman McCarthy once said, if we don't teach our children peace, someone else will teach them violence. Powerful, isn't it? Do you ever think about that? I mean, I never put it in that context until reading that article. That's the thing that we're all going to deal with, isn't it? At some point, some kind of disagreement, some kind of conflict, something, and we're seeing it on a grand scale, and yet we have never been taught collectively how to deal with this. Now, maybe it's because people just didn't know. I don't know, but we know now. In the past 20 years, there's been a new social science that's emerging called social emotional learning. And that's the science of how to deal with your emotions and understand that and how to channel it. And when you understand yourself, you can then understand other people and bring out the best in them. So what we're sharing all year, and it's probably my life's work really, is a lot of that. What to do with those emotions and with your thoughts and your imagination and how to hone it all so that you can use it to your advantage to live the life that you were born to live. So peace literacy, it's a skill set for the 21st century. It's not something that happens by chance or by accident. We actually know what those skills are and we can teach them. And we're learning more and more and more every day. It's like the green growing edge. There's a speaker coming to Ocala on Thursday by the name of Paul Chappell. And I'm letting you all know this because we'd love to have as many people here as possible. It's Thursday the 16th from 6 to 8 at the College of Central Florida at the Charles de Sants Fine Arts Center. And this gentleman is Paul Chappell. Paul Chappell is his mother is Korean, his father is African American and white, and he was raised in Alabama.
Wow.
Wow, right? Just hear that, just feel that. Now his father was 55 years old when he was born. And his father's father was raised by grandparents. So at this point in our culture and history, most people who had an experience with slavery, let's say within their family, are about 5 generations removed from that. Paul Chappell was actually only 3 generations removed because of those circumstances, right? Because of his grandfather, because of his grandfather's grandfather raising him, and then his father being the age that he was when he was born. At any rate, he has a lot of the mindset and understanding of what it was to be in that culture. So it's much closer to him in his heart, even though he really looks Asian. In his heart and in his mind, he was raised by an African American father who was very close to living the slave experience, understanding that from his culture and his family. So he has a really interesting perspective on race. The other thing is that he went to West Point and he served in the Iraq War. So he's got, oh, and I didn't tell you about this, his father also was traumatized by being in the Korean War and also the Vietnam War. And so he was very violent. And so Paul Chappell grew up really traumatized from multiple things, from the physical violence that was happening in his home, but also the racial environment that he was raised in. What's that say? It's the 13th. What do I have there? Oh, June 16th. Okay, it should say June 13th. That's Thursday. And there's the flyer for anyone who wants to go. You can go on Eventbrite and sign up there. Thank you. It's like magic. Yes, go on Eventbrite. Like I said, we'd love to have as many people there as possible. So anyway, he understands trauma. He understands anger. He understands rage. He understands the art of waging war. This is what he studied. This is what we're taught very much in our culture. We're not taught the other piece, right? The part about peace literacy. And that's what he's going around the country talking about. So the book, one of the books he wrote, he's got a series of them, is called The Art of Waging Peace. So he studied the art of waging war. He's now studying and talking about the art of waging peace. And what we're here to talk about today is what he calls the first line of defense in peace building and understanding this whole peace literacy, how to wage peace. So here's what he says. I should have marked it better. Okay. It's all about respect. Now, Paul Chappell is also a martial artist, so a lot of the references in his books have to do with martial arts. Again, the art of waging peace and being a soldier and a warrior. So he actually here quotes Jet Li. Everybody know who Jet Li is? Famous martial artist. Jet Li says, "I have the best martial arts self-defense technique. The best technique is to smile at people, because if you smile and treat people with respect and kindness, they usually don't want to fight you. Anyone who gets into a lot of fights has very poor martial arts self-defense." So Paul says, not only will respecting everyone as human beings help us wage peace, but respect is the foundation for every genuine act of love, compassion, and kindness. This is what Paul Chappell says is the first line of defense in peace building is to understand what respect is. So what is respect? Let's go back to the dictionary. What does the dictionary tell us respect means? It's a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something that's elicited by their abilities, their qualities, or their achievements. That's one definition for respect. Here's another one. Due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or tradition of others. And that's probably the definition that I'm going to go with today. Let's just keep it really basic, right? It's just having regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of other people. And here's some synonyms. Consideration, thoughtfulness, attentiveness, politeness, courtesy, civility, deference, esteem, honor, appreciation. You get it, right? All of those things are what we call respect. That's what it means to respect. Now, how about this word? Anybody know disrespect? Raise your hands if you've ever been disrespected, if you've ever felt disrespected. That should be everybody, right? I think that's one of those universal things, is a feeling of being disrespected. And it doesn't feel good when we get disrespected, yes? Yeah, it's not a happy feeling. So I want you to keep that in mind, right, as we talk. Know what respect is, know what disrespect is. It's important for us to understand both of those. I came across this quote and I thought it was really, I'm not sure who the author is, and he's some kind of he's a magician or something, nobody really famous, I don't think, but he said this. I think this is an awesome and true quote. People crave for more respect than love because they expect love only from a few people, but they want respect from everyone. Now, isn't that the truth? You'd be in the grocery store. You don't have to love the cashier. You don't have to love the people in the parking lot, but we expect respect from everyone, don't we? Yeah, and it's so much easier to give your respect. Maybe we talk in New Thought and in spiritual places about love, and we love everybody. And sometimes, to be honest, that's really hard, isn't it? But can we respect everyone? Feels like it's setting the bar a little bit lower, but it's something that feels like more doable, doesn't it? And even that seems to be difficult for some people, to just give basic respect to others. But we all crave it, we all want it, we all know what it feels like when we don't get it. In my research, I found this quote, and I really, truly, I believe it to be true, that disrespect is essential to the ideology of violence.
Yes.
Disrespect. I have yet to see a serious act of violence that was not provoked by the experience of feeling shamed or humiliated, disrespected, and ridiculed. Now that's written by a physician who, a Harvard-educated physician who wrote a book called Violence, Reflections on a National Epidemic. Another set of researchers, I can't remember their name, but they said that it's estimated that 2/3 of the murders that happen in our country have to do with people, men in particular, feeling shamed or disrespected, feeling like the need to get revenge. Now think about the bullies. Think about these kids that are going in and shooting up their high schools, right? Think about terrorists of all kinds, domestic and foreign. What is it that, what's the core of that anger and that pain? It's feeling disrespected. It's feeling disrespected. It's feeling not heard. And we can change that. We can change that. We know what that feels like, and we know that we can change it. Has anyone ever been in a situation where you felt very disrespected, and then someone offered you that gift of respect? Right? They paid attention to you. They asked you, "Can I help you?" You ever been at a window, even at the doctor's office, where you're just standing there and people are just like doing their thing, like you don't even exist? Does that happen to anybody but me? Does it aggravate anyone else?
Yes.
Right? And then when that person finally comes and says, "Oh, I see you, I acknowledge you," and then maybe they'll say, I'm so sorry for your wait. And what does that do to your anger? You just right down, right? Because you've been acknowledged. You've been acknowledged. It's important for every single one of us, right? Understanding when that disrespect is allowed to fester, that it turns into that. And I see it at the prison every week. I hear these stories over and over and over again of disrespects, not only for people throughout their lives, but in the situation where they are. It's just a continual cycle of shaming and humiliation and disrespect. It's no wonder that when people come out of prison, they end up going right back, because they haven't been given any tools to survive back in this world. That's how important this is. So what can we do how do we give this respect? That's the number one thing, is we have to be willing to do it. And Paul Chappell makes two kind of distinctions. There is respect that we can offer people that is cross-cultural. It's important when you're dealing with folks to understand what their background is. Like, there are cultures that don't appreciate a person looking them directly in the eyes, right? Like in Middle Eastern cultures, you're not supposed to look people in the eyes. In America, if you're not looking me in the eyes, what does that mean? Disrespect, or you're lying. There's some kind of dishonesty going on there, right? That's what people think here. But it's different in different cultures. It's important to understand the culture that you're working with, that you're dealing with. And that requires a willingness on our part to do that. So what Chappell says, every culture has different standards of respect. And to restore people, that's to bring them back to healing and wholeness, because that's what we're all about, right? Peace is that state of wholeness and harmony within us. So to bring ourselves and other people back into that requires a willingness to do that. Restoring through respect requires a willingness to understand other perspectives. That's when we're going cross-culturally. Now here, what we teach here in Centers for Spiritual Living is universal principle. What do I mean by that? Universal principle.
Principles that apply to everybody.
Exactly. Principles that apply to everyone. It doesn't matter what your culture is, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your socioeconomic level, what country you come from. There are principles that apply to human beings that are across all of those, that are at the core of who we are. That's what we call universal principle. And that's what we teach in Centers for Spiritual Living, is universal principle. So, that's what the next three things I'm going to talk to you about are universal principles having to do with respect. Now, Chappell calls respect the infinite shield. Because again, he likes that imagery of the warrior. And so respect is that thing that can shield you, right, from danger. And he says it like this: I call respect the infinite shield because it not only protects us, but everyone around us. It prevents dangerous situations from escalating and serves as a first line of defense against violence. Right? Have you ever been in a situation where, and he talks about in the book, he brings up a story where he's in a bar or something like that, or a restaurant, and one of his people feels disrespected, and so they're going to start this big fight. It becomes into this big thing until he says, okay, all of this isn't worth the disrespect over your fork, not being clean or whatever the thing was, right? Like somebody could end up going to jail, possibly lose a life, right, over something like ridiculous. But this is the kind of thing that we can get amped up about. Has anyone ever seen that?
Oh yeah.
Right? We have seen it, yes. So respect, then, he calls it the infinite shield. I was really wanting my husband to be here this morning. He's out supporting our daughter, who is competing in Tampa in a strong person, police thing she's in. Anyway, lifting weights. So he's supporting her there, but I really wanted to use him as an example of this, so I'll just share with you. About 2 weeks ago, we had our opening, what do we call it, Corinne, for Circle Up? Yeah, our kickoff event for the nonprofit organization we're starting. It is our Peace Building Center. And one of the women that was here in the Informational Center, works in the court system. She's over all of the alternative kind of sentencing courts, like the Veterans Court and the Mental Health Court and the Drug Court. And my husband is a bailiff. He retired from the sheriff's office and now works part-time at the courthouse as a bailiff. And people there call him the inmate whisperer.
Oh, wow.
He laughs about it, and Elena called him out. She said because they want him at, like, the special courts, they all want him. And the people that are there working through their problems and their situations enjoy my husband's presence. She says it's almost a little disheartening. We work with these people in drug court for 16 weeks, and then we ask for an evaluation at the end. And she says it's amazing how many of them mention my husband. She's like, they only see him a couple of times in the courtroom, and they work with us for 16 weeks, but they talk about him. Why? Because he respects them. Because he treats them like human beings. And they remember that. He's wearing a uniform, and they expect him to be the same as many of the other people that they come across in that, and he treats them like human beings, and therefore he stands out. And if you ask him, what is it that you do? I'm not sure that he could tell you, but I can, and that's what I'm sharing with you now. These things, this magical thing he has, the inmate whisperer, he uses the infinite shield of respect. And there are 3 pieces to this. Number 1, listen. Just listen. Everybody wants to be heard. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be acknowledged. And when I say listen, it's not just the words come in your ears and you kind of hear it. I'm talking about bringing your authentic self, your presence to someone when they're in the midst of something. It means if someone comes into my office and I'm sitting at my computer and they're needing my attention, I'm not still looking at the computer as I'm talking to them. Now I don't always remember to do that. So I ask any of you, if that ever happens, just bring me back gently. But I try to remember that, right? To be present with people, especially when they're in the midst of something. And if a person is escalating, they're in the middle of something. And that means your attention needs to be focused right there, not on what's going on at home or what happened before or what's going to happen later. No, you be present with that person right there, right now. Have you ever talked to somebody and you know it's like the lights are on, but nobody's home? They're not paying attention to you? We can tell.
Michael Jackson.
That's Michael Jackson. Oops. So listen. The most basic of all human needs is the need to understand and to be understood. And the best way to understand people is just to listen to them. And that's a person, he's like the father of this, this idea of listening, the science behind it. I like that graphic as well, because I think when people don't feel like they're listened to, what do? You get louder, and you get louder until you know somebody is hearing you. Now what happens if even your voice isn't loud enough? What do you do next? Behaviors start. Exactly. It's kind of hard not to listen to somebody when you get punched in the face, right? That's a way to get someone's attention, isn't it? Right? You're not listening to me. I'm going to make sure you see me and you hear me now. Right? It breeds violence. So listen to people. I love this. Speak to the person's potential. They may be acting out in whatever way they're acting out, but you speak to them from a place of seeing the truth of who they are. It's the namaste, right? God in me sees the God in you. And I'm going to speak to that possibility. I'm going to speak to that person. I'm going to draw that person out. My husband is the way he is because he was raised by an amazing woman. Lucy Pearl was she lit up a room when she walked in. And she lived like this. She saw the best in everybody. Now, my kids and my sister-in-law's kid, they're like the same age, and they were all little teeny tinies. And, one of them was a little hellion. And he was always getting into something, and when he would do something wrong, and he'd be disrespectful, Lucy would say, now, Paul, that's not really you. And I'd be standing over here watching. I'd be like, damn right it was him. I saw it. Why are you saying that wasn't him? I know it was him. I saw it. I knew it. But that's not what she meant. What she meant was how you're behaving right now is not who you really are. And I see the better part of you. And I want to draw that out of you. And people will live up to that, right? When we treat people as they are, they will remain as they are. Yeah. When we treat people as if they were what they should be, they will become what they could be. I want to change that. Not should be, right? Because we don't shit on people. Yeah. We don't shit on people here. What we could be. Speak to a person's higher self and to their possibility of who they are, and you will draw that out of them. The third thing, so important, don't be a hypocrite. Does that aggravate anybody else?
Yes.
Don't tell me to get my stuff together until you get your stuff together. Who are you to tell me what to do with my kids, what to do with my life, what to do with my anything? Right? Anybody else ever feel like that? You get somebody coming to you telling you how you're supposed to do this, that, and the other, and you know they don't have their own house in order? Don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. Get your own stuff together. Right? What does that mean? Be in integrity. Be in integrity. What you think, what you say, what you do, it all lines up. It all lines up. Now, who spoke about not being a hypocrite? You want to find some stuff about not being a hypocrite? Crack open that Bible. How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your eye, and then you will see clearly enough to remove the speck from your brother's eye.
Amen.
Amen, right? The words of Jesus, the man himself, the Christ. Don't be a hypocrite. Right? Get yourself together. Put your own house in order before you try to tell anybody else what they need to do. Live in integrity. And if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. Right? Don't be a hypocrite. I love this. It seems like I'm missing something. There it is. It kind of went backwards. So just to reiterate, to recapture that, to maximize respect with other people, number one, be aware of social customs. Actually, number one is be willing. Number one is be willing to extend that respect to others. And if you're dealing with someone that is of a different background than you, maybe you want to find out what respect means for them, but be aware of those social customs. Then we go into the 3 elements of universal respect. Number one is listen. Listen, right? With your presence, with your whole self. Number 2, speak to the potential of that person. The God in me sees the God in you. Even if you don't see that God self in this moment, I see it. And I'm going to hold that possibility for you. And the third thing, don't be a hypocrite. If you want to flip it, make it positive, say, I live in integrity. What I think, what I say, and what I do lines up. I'm in integrity. The other reason Paul Chappell calls respect the infinite shield, the infinite aspect of this, is this. We cannot truly measure where respect ends. It can extend beyond our local community. It can even extend far into the future. Like the ripples that emanate from a pebble dropped in a pond, the respect we give others out in the world, the respect we give others ripples out into the world and through the ocean of time, unlocking empathy, love, and calm. Right. Respect. It's like a little seed of kindness that you plant and have no idea where it's going to blossom, how it's going to grow, how it's going to change. I'm sure as my husband works with these folks that have gotten into trouble and he treats them like human beings, he doesn't know they're going back and writing these evaluations and thanking him. He had no idea that was happening. And what a change. What changes are possible for those people now next time they see another person in uniform? Or anything else. You know, somebody's been nice. It's like that video we show once in a while of the paying it forward. You just have no idea how far the ripple effect can go and how you can change someone's, not just their day, but their whole mindset, their whole framework as they go forward into their lives. By a single act of kindness, by a single act of respect, by not judging someone, by giving them the space to go through their changes, whatever those things are. You have no idea the effect that could have on another person. But that's the work that we're here to do. And while it's not always easy, it is fairly simple. It's fairly simple. And I see each and every one of us as peace warriors. So I hope this moves you as much as it moves me. Keep coming, share this work, because it's not something like, I'm not pulling it out of the air, right? We know that these things actually, that they work. I think I'll leave it at that. So I'm going to close with our affirmation. I'll say it first and then you all say it with me. I am respected because I live in integrity and treat myself and others with respect. My presence, words, and actions bring out the best in others. You all ready to claim that?
Yes.
All right. I am respected because I live in integrity and treat myself and others with respect. My presence, words, and actions bring out the best in others. And so it is.